I had a lady that was a referral, and this was a week or two ago. I think I told you about her, and she was starting Medicare as a disabled person. And so, but she had gotten it in February or something. So I
Mhm.
said, well, she goes, I hope I'm not too late. And I said, no, you're okay. You can still, I don't remember the timing, but she was still going to be at the very last. If she got it in July, she'd meet the 7 month window of Medicare for Part B. Anyway, I did tell her though, well, the only problem is that you'll have a slight penalty for the 2 months that you didn't have prescription drug coverage. And she was
Mhm.
livid and said, what are you talking about? It's an 8 month, this and that and the other. And I was told July. And I was like, yeah, it is July for the medical part. And that's where I get mad at the government. Why would you do that to people?
Hey there, rebels on the retirement highway. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Yasmine, your co-pilot for fun flashbacks, retirement mischiefs, and the occasional Medicare sanity check.
We're best friends, lifelong storytellers, and just noisy enough to share what we've learned about life. Laughter and staying retired, rewired, and slightly unsupervised.
Your co-pilot for fun flashbacks and retirement mischief. Each week, we start off with a blast from the past and connect it to real life now and sprinkle in some Medicare truth, minus the boring parts.
Think Thelma and Louise with more giggles, less cliffs, and no Cousin Larry explaining Plan G.
So buckle up and hit subscribe. Your Medicare Besties are here to keep your retirement stories rolling and your Medicare mistakes in the rearview mirror.
Let's get started.
Good morning, Cindy. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm greetings from Kentucky, rural Kentucky. I'm in the middle of farmland and animals and a pond, and I feel like I just went back in time about 100 years. It feels so
Oh,
nice.
that must be super nice.
It's
That's
beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
staying on a 10-acre property with a pond and lots of dogs that just roam around free, and
Oh,
bunny rabbits and lots of mice and critters.
that sounds a little scary though.
Yeah, let's just say there's bugs in Kentucky I never knew existed.
Exactly. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so anyway, but luckily we've been blessed with non-humidity for a few days. It's been very low humid temperatures in
Mhm.
the 70s and 80s, which is not rare this time of year. So we're kind of excited. We're taking advantage of it while we're here and getting lots of grandkid time in. Ta
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm doing mostly working, but Tom is doing a good job of playing grandpa. I love seeing this man with his grandchildren. It makes me smile just to see all of the giggles and laughter. And he's such a hands-on grandparent. And he gets on
Mhm.
the floor with them and plays little games, and he's calling it like he's the robot crane and then the fancy crane, and the kids are all running all over him. It's like
Oh.
I love that. There's something very special about seeing the person you love on his
Mhm.
grandkids.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
then just the giggles and the laughter and everything. I'm jealous. I want to be a grandma so bad.
I know. Well, hopefully that's
Yeah.
gonna come soon now that maybe, JJ's married and,
Jake. Yeah.
Jake's married.
We don't want JJ married
No, no,
yet.
Jake,
We're
not Jake. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well,
Yeah.
good. Well, listen, I was just thinking about when we were younger and we were just learning about credit cards and all of that and paying our cars off and how easy it was for us to forget to pay our credit card bill before we had text messages and online drawing and everything when the bill would
Yeah.
actually come and you'd have to pay it on time. And I grew up thinking to myself, late penalties equals bad, just like I've never been the person that ever wants to have that $35 credit card fee because I forgot to pay the darn bill. And
Yeah.
so,
I
we're
would call
lucky.
the bank. So
Oh, did you
I'm
really? Did you
in
have a
no
hack
yes,
there?
because even if it was my fault, I would call the bank and I would be like, "Hey, like I messed up. I overdrew my checking account or whatever, cuz I maybe didn't have enough money in there or whatever the case was. Or I could have paid even the credit card bill twice. Who knows? But anyway,
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money in there. And they would be like, okay, Mrs. Klontz, like, we'll give you an exception this time
Right.
and give me that $35. Because back then, that was a big deal. $35. I feel like my kids don't do that. I still advise them to call the bank if that happens and just admit that you made a mistake, because nobody wants to be charged
No,
an
it's
extra
painful.
fee.
And then
Yeah.
the interest that you're paid as well. I told Lux, because I have a couple of rental properties, and I said the most important and precious thing that you need to protect as an adult is your credit, because once you have an eviction or you have on your credit report that you don't pay your bills on time, it affects your livelihood in terms of even being able to find a place to live. And I
Does.
see people struggling with they can't find a place to live because they've had run into either some of it's medical debt.
That.
So
Yeah.
with Lux, I've just made it very clear that you got to protect your credit score as if it
Hmm.
were golden, because it can. I've seen people not be able to get a place to live, and all of a sudden you have a lot of challenges. So I'm trying to really teach Lux that live within your means wherever possible because of that. And also just look at the interest rate that you're charged if you end up extending yourself.
Yeah.
And so I
What's
think that's been
scary?
great because Lux has
What's
now got over
scary?
800 credit rating.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah. What's scary now is we have to co-sign for them, right? So like AJ at 19, he wanted to get his first credit card. And so he's like, Mom, will you co-sign for me? I said, sure, because he's really
Oh,
responsible and
totally. Yeah.
everything, and super disciplined. And I talked to him about, look, this is your, responsibility to have this paid off. And if you don't, the college money that we're giving you is going to go towards, I'm not paying it out of my money.
Right.
It's going to be your money that if you are irresponsible with it. But that's kind of scary because it's my
Yeah.
credit that he could be ruining, you
Well,
know?
that's true. I did. Lux was able to get a credit card on their own, with a $500 credit limit to start, but I think it because Lux was working full time at the time. And
Yeah.
so, and not in school. So that was possible. But the car that we have, the car loan, I gave a down payment as a high school graduation, and Lux has paid it off. I think this is the month of the last payment, frankly. So that's a bit,
Awesome.
yeah. So that'll be nice to have that paid off. But anyway, it's funny that you said that you called the credit card company and they were forgiving. Guess who's
Yeah.
not forgiving when you miss your late enrollment with Medicare?
The government.
The
The
government,
government is
they don't.
not
They said, I don't
forgiving.
care what your excuse is, you're paying that penalty for life. And
I
I
know. Can
and I
you
know
imagine?
I can't. I really, yes, I can actually. So last year or 2 years ago, I had clients that were in their 70s and 70 and 75, and they were federal employees, and they were really bummed out because the federal employee plans had gotten so expensive. They said, when we first decided to use only the federal employee plans for our retirement, they were like $50 a month, which was before I was in Medicare. So I didn't know they were that inexpensive. And they're like, now we're each paying over $400 for
Yeah.
our federal employee plan, and we never signed up for Medicare. So I did the numbers and we went through the spreadsheet, and I said, actually, you probably would save money, and because they still have a lot of deductibles and copays with the federal plan. I said, I think
Hmm.
you'll save money. We could put you on a cheaper federal plan and get you Medicare. So they each have a penalty. One of them, their penalty is $150 a month. And can you believe
Wow.
it's still cheaper to pay the penalty than it is to stay on the federal plan?
No, I
But
totally
for
can.
life. And so I just feel it's really painful, to see that one mistake like that. And they said we were told that it wasn't really necessary. We thought, why would we go on Medicare when we were paying $50 a month for our premium? I would have probably done the same thing, frankly.
Yeah,
And
me
and
too. I
so,
had two clients this week that are having late enrollment
oh,
penalties for life. One client, she didn't even know that her plan wasn't credible. Right.
Oh,
So she's over 65 and in fact she's 68. So she's going to have a 3-year penalty, which is going to be huge for Part B and for Part D because
ouch.
her employer is a small employer and they have less than 20 people. And she had no clue that her insurance wasn't credible. And so I had just met her and let her know. So she's applying for Medicare right now as we speak, and we're waiting for her to get her card in the mail. But 3 years at a
Yeah.
10% penalty for Part B, that's going to be a lot of money. Plus Part D, she's going to have that penalty for life too. So,
Well, and sometimes I find with the small employer plans that
mhm.
I've submitted the form that they're late starting Medicare, and they haven't charged it, and sometimes they have. Like,
Okay.
it's typical random, so maybe she'll be on the lucky side on that one, but, I mean, it's not a rule, it just seems it's just random. Maybe it was an oversight by the government, whatever, but
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
bummer because, it
Yeah.
seems like to me when they're a little more forgiving when someone has insurance through their employer or something, or they get
Mhm.
confused that it's small employer.
Yeah.
But she's lucky actually that she didn't have a major illness because those small employer plans, they will already
Don't
assume you have Medicare and
medic
go, and I had a client in
we're
that
only gonna pay
situation.
20%,
Yes,
right?
they're only
And
gonna pay
not 100.
20%. You're on the
Yeah.
and you're like, "But I didn't apply for Medicare." Well, too bad, so
Yeah.
we are not on the
Exactly.
hook for that. So sometimes people are
Yeah.
unaware that they've left themselves exposed and thankfully didn't get, but this client actually had a major surgery and
Mm,
it was they came back and said, "Well, you're older than 65, so you have Medicare." And he's like, "Well, my Medicare hasn't started yet." Well,
yeah.
too bad. We only have to pay 20%.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
and then I had another client that was in a totally different situation, but kind of similar where they're going to have a late enrollment penalty because they were on an ACA plan, which is the under 65, kind of like the
marketplace.
marketplace.
Yeah.
And so she had turned 65 in February. Well, you only have 63 days to get Part D coverage. So she's just going to have a small penalty. It's not going to be much, but still, it is a penalty for life for not having credible Part D coverage. And they had even asked their insurance company, they asked Florida Blue if, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say the name of the insurance company, but anyway, they had asked their insurance company if they were okay, and the insurance company said yes.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of sad. And I had to tell him, look, no, it's not okay. We need to get you off of that plan and onto Medicare and a Part D plan. And so I actually wrote them yesterday for a September 1 date. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Well,
So,
I had a lady that was a referral, and this was a week or two ago. I think I told you about her, and she was starting Medicare as a disabled person. And so, but she had gotten it in February or something. So I
mhm,
said, "Well," she goes, I hope I'm not too late." And I said, "No, you're okay. You can still," I don't remember the timing, but she was still going to be at the very last. If she got it in July, she'd meet the 7-month window of Medicare for Part B. Anyway, I did tell her though, "Well, the only problem is that you'll have a slight penalty for the 2 months that you didn't have prescription drug coverage." And she
mhm,
was livid and said, "What are you talking about? It's an 8-month, this and that and the other, and I was told July." And I was like, "Yeah, it is July for the medical part." And that's where I get mad at the government. Why would you do that to people? You have one rule that
yeah,
says, "You have 8 months to apply for Medicare Part B. Take your time, mañana." But if you do that and you take that 8 months, you will have 6 months of that time that's a penalty on your prescription drug plan that you do not have. And
That's what
that
makes
really
Medicare
makes me
so
mad. Yeah.
confusing.
I mean,
You
these
know,
are
it's
unfair rules that seem to be put in place without an
Mhm,
understanding that why wouldn't you make it consistent? Either make it 63 days for everybody or make it 8 months
exactly.
for everybody for both plans. Because then she thought I had to show her the rule in Medicare that it was a 63-day penalty after
Mhm.
63-day penalty for prescription. She didn't believe me.
And
And
that's why I try to tell people just as a rule, it's 63 days.
I
You know,
agree.
I
That's
just it
right.
makes it
Yes.
simple and for them to understand. But yes, technically they do have the 8 months on the
Yeah.
Part B side and then the 63 days on the Part D. So
But
it's
this
like
is one area where I will say, do not rely on doing this yourself. There are just so
too
many
many
rules.
rules. Yeah.
And look how long it's taken us to just have to absorb all of that information to become subject matter experts in the area.
Mhm.
And to try and do that your own, it's just a landmine, in my opinion, of potential mess ups that you could make, even if you're the smartest person in the world. It's
Even
just
the
too
insurance
many little,
companies, yeah,
yes,
are
they
giving
get it
false
wrong.
information, and
Yeah,
you know, because sometimes and I've had this happen before where I'll call the insurance company to, you know, fuss out a situation or walk it through, and you get different answers from
you do.
different people, which is so confusing. So luckily you and I with our knowledge base can kind of navigate that and talk it through and
Absolutely.
with our experience come up with a great solution for people, which I
I know.
love.
I do
Yeah,
too. You and I like have this
yeah.
little ammo toolbox that we keep on the side, and it's like every now and then I'm like, I'm missing a screwdriver. Let me call Cindy. Cindy,
Exactly.
help me with this one, and vice versa. And I do think that's really important, and also the
Yeah.
fact that we are trying so hard. We see it as people's livelihood, their pocketbook, their nest egg, and we're doing everything we can to protect it for them. And I think that's important that you have an advocate on your side that's got your back,
You
frankly.
just got to get to us soon enough, right? So
Yeah,
it's really important to make that call 6 months before so that we can start strategizing and make sure
exactly.
that we've got all the correct tools in our tool belt, right?
I totally agree with you. That way we put that sequence and timeline, and this is what needs to be done by this time, that time, this time, that time. And then you have peace of mind, and I normally you and I don't go salesy on the podcast, but I do think this is a case where there's a lot of landmines out there, and it can be those penalties for life are very difficult to get rid of. That's the other thing. I actually have another client, one of my very first ones. This was a very sad one, and it's happened twice now. Is that they were in the process of getting their citizenship. They didn't have their green card yet, but they're here legally, and they've been here legally for years, working, paying taxes. And believe it or not, it shows that they're eligible for Social Security benefits, and they should be eligible for Medicare. So you can actually fill out the Medicare application for them, but then it asks, well, I need to see your green card in order to get it, and they don't have it yet. And so they end up with a penalty for not having Medicare on time because they didn't have their green card when they retired.
Mm,
And so one of them, she was like, the daughter was saying, well, we didn't realize it was that important. And so she was 70 instead of 65 and ended up with a 5-year penalty for not having
wow.
Medicare,
Yeah.
even though she'd been legally in the US for 20 years.
Mm.
And so it just but so that's another weird one where, some of the federal programs say, okay, you're here legally, you access to, marketplace plans, or you have access to Social Security, but you don't, you're earning credits for Medicare, but until you have that green card, you don't get it. And so there's a, it's a lot for a lot of people.
It is a lot. It's a lot to know and navigate through those waters. So
It is. And unfortunately, the government is not going to be like your credit card company that says, okay, I'll take the excuse that your dog ate your homework.
exactly.
and
Yeah.
but
The government's going to get their fill.
unfortunately, that's what's happening. So, yeah. And then I also think that it's interesting now that some of my clients with the 2000 max out of pocket on the drugs, they're getting very frustrated once they have their first brand name tier 3 or 4 or 5 drug and they're getting that deductible and they go in and say, I just went to fill this medication my doctor just gave me and I have to pay $600 for it because they have a $500 deductible on that drug and they've only taken generics. So I think we're probably in a situation where a lot of people are going to go through some growing pains that yes, you have a max on the high end, but I think in general everybody's going to pay more on the low end for their medications.
Yeah, I think
And
so
that's
too. Lots
yeah,
of
so it's
changes for
gonna be
next year.
I know lots of changes, but
Yeah.
anyway, well, do you have any exciting plans for the week ahead?
Yeah, so we are going to Orange Beach in
Nice.
Alabama. So I'm super excited. We're just going to play some family games and spend a little time at the beach and eat some good food. And
Nice.
I get to see Allie and everything. So yeah, super
Have you been there
excited about that.
before? I've never been.
No, actually, we've never been to Orange Beach. So, but it's only 4 hours from us in Georgia. And so it's super close.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then it's not very far. It's about the same distance from Allie, too, which is why we chose it. I wish we could have one place in the middle for everybody where we could all travel
Yeah.
5 or 6 hours, but it's with us spread all out, it doesn't work that way. And so yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. So we're leaving early Friday morning and I'm just going to spend the day down there Friday and Saturday and then come back Sunday. So what about
Oh,
you? Are you
wonderful.
I know you're in Kentucky, but are you guys plans or
Yeah, so this upcoming weekend is a big bluegrass festival at the
oh
Audubon Park here in Henderson, Kentucky. And so we're likely going to that on Friday or Saturday. And then, of course, just spending time with the family. It's been so fun. We brought our dogs with us. And so Tom's daughter has 2 dogs, and we're babysitting 2 dogs. And so it's a lot of things going on here, but it's been really fun. I have to say, I really can't get over how I've been here before, obviously, but Kentucky is a very beautiful, idyllic environment in the rural parts with all of the cornfields and just rolling hills and all the greenery. It's lush. And I always feel I'm back in time a little bit. And I love the accent of the South, I have to say.
kind of like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz?
Exactly, exactly.
Take me
Yeah.
home, Toto.
So
Yeah.
that's what where our plans are right now. We're just kind of chilling
Cool.
and taking it easy. But you guys have a wonderful time. I'm glad we got to reschedule and still connect this week
Yeah.
um and another episode of Medicare Besties. This is, I think, a short and sweet one, which is, there's a lot of ads out there saying be careful of penalties. And honestly, yeah, be careful with penalties, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's no
All
joke.
right. Yeah.
All right, take care, my dear.
All
Bye bye.
right. See you later.
If you're wondering if this could happen to me, the answer is yes. If you do not know what gaps to look for,
Join us for our free Medicare webinar, Buckle Up Buttercup, 5 Medicare Secrets for a Smooth Ride Through Retirement. We'll show you how to dodge costly surprises and stay competently covered.
Seats fill fast. Click below to save your seat and bring your questions. We're ready when you are.